it's got to be the heaviest song we've ever done. Like definitely the heaviest I've ever done my vocals for.
Sick.
And
Cool.
and the breakdowns and stuff like that, and just the way it was written. It's, I don't know, Jeff's got that 200 IQ shit going on in that one. So
this breakdown's
so
for the
good,
200
man.
IQ homies in the house.
Yeah.
Because you got to make sure the audio is recording before we get going. Because otherwise it's
absolutely.
just us going like this. But without further ado, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We are doing a Western Canada meets Eastern Canada hardcore connection, and I am welcomed by Mike from Cold Shoulder. Thanks for coming on the show, my guy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as far as the time recording this, you and I had just got to hang out for kind of a day and change, if you want to call it that, with Endgame going out to play Toys for Tots with you guys. And you guys have a new record coming out. And I think you've been on like my hit list as far as like people I've wanted to have on the show. And now feels like the appropriate timing to finally have you on. So I'm really excited to do this chat with you.
I'm very excited and very honored to be on a hit list for you. It's very, very cool. I've seen some of the people you've worked with and interviewed, man, and it's dope to be on that list.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think that there's a balance for me with this podcast to be able to go after the big dogs, cue my dogs barking behind the door here, but also going after people that are homies who are in like maybe small to medium-sized bands that I want to give a larger platform. So I think it's a balance of both. I do see some podcasts maybe dipping a little bit more into like the only hitting up the big people. So I like to have that like balance of that.
Absolutely. Man.
But before we get into any of the music chats, it's standard here on the show to check some bevs. So it's tradition for the guests to go first. So tell me what you got going on the bev side, Mike.
I got a classic. I got a staple for life. Just water. just boring ass water. It's pretty much all I drink, like 100% of the time, maybe 99% of the time. The other 1% will be like a Gatorade Zero. So you'll mostly ever catch me just drinking water.
Mm-hmm. So you're pretty basic when it comes to beverages. It's concerned. I like to keep it simple.
Basic a bitch as basic. Just I don't know. I got over the whole sugary drinks thing even a long time ago, and I can't do energy drinks unless I'm playing a show or something.
Okay.
So
yeah. So the real question is, have you drank one of those water bottles already today? And this is like, topping up before the day ends. I'm just curious of your how hard you hit the hydration levels in your day to day.
I kind of just go like drink when I'm thirsty. Like I'll wake up and I'll crank one of these as soon as I wake up. Because it's 8 hours of me sleep. If I get to sleep 8 hours, it'll be 8 hours of me sleeping with my damn mouth open and just drying out all night. Because I sleep with my mouth open. So, and then I just kind of keep going. I don't know. I don't keep track too much. Some days I'll maybe hit 6 of these, which is ridiculous. Okay. But like if I go to the gym and I'm at work and have a really full day, I'll make sure I hit a bunch of these. And on a day like today, where it's just been kind of just chilling around, seeing friends, I went to see a movie. I think I've drank maybe 3.
Yeah. So it's, the scales seem to be balanced, and you're not too hard on yourself.
No,
I think it is one of those things though that like, and maybe you could speak a little bit more to this because, especially on those days that you're hitting like 4 or 5, like I find when I drink an excess amount of water, I'm just like hitting the bathroom constantly. But I've heard that like you need to kind of get past the point of making that regular and then your body can actually like absorb the nutrients of like water versus just like peeing constantly. I don't know if that's just maybe a WebMD thing that kind of led me astray, or if there's anything you know about that on that side of things.
I know that there is a certain point where you're no longer hydrating, that as your pee comes out clear, I guess you're kind of just going from mouth to urethra, and then and nothing's really happening with it because
Sure.
you got to get your like the electrolyte minerals and stuff like that, which a lot of water doesn't have, which is why I'll do a Gatorade Zero sometimes,
Gotcha.
because it has like the magnesium, potassium, and sodium and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't, dude, just drink when you're thirsty. Like, I don't know, like, I know if you're sweating, you might like not pee as much and you'll reach a certain equilibrium there.
Sure.
Where as you're, because I'll notice then, like, I can crank 6 of these in like a day, and I'll notice I'm not just rifling to the bathroom all the time. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, lots
Other
of
than that.
you know, very in-depth Bev and you know, what happens after you Bev conversations very early in the podcast. Yeah,
Love it.
as far as Bevs for me, I'm sure you might have seen, Mike, that we have a couple of Bev sponsors in the mix of things. So I don't have the carton with me, but I'm drinking a very late, well, not really late on my end, but it's just an iced dirty chai. I need to stay up,
Oh yeah.
you know, stay engaged for this podcast. So just, you know, it's like a 1-to-1 mix. So it's half almond milk, half dirty chai concentrate. And it is, you know,
Ooh.
It's a great thing to kind of end the weekend here.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. I should have brought some
to
you guys for Toys for Tots, but you know, it's that constant thing of like checked bag and liquids, and
well, dude,
I don't want to open my bag and it's just
like,
wet everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And also I feel like you guys were like it sounded like you had a lot going on the whole week and you were in a rush and like anxious, and yeah, you just like, I don't know if that's the actual case, but it just sounded like when I messaged you that you were like busy and probably didn't want to bring extra stuff.
Yeah, I think it was maybe a combo of like, we were scheduled not tightly, but we had things on our plate for that weekend. So, you know, we can maybe get into some of those things. But
absolutely.
As far as like kind of easing into the podcast here, maybe we can just talk about like kind of your hardcore and like heavy music origin story. I always like to ask that as the primer question for any new guest who comes on the show. So, take us back in time when Mike was only yay high, and tell me about some of the times that you heard, you know, metal and breakdowns and mosh music for the first time.
Absolutely. I think I always cite them as my first really heavy band. I think it all must have started, I think, with Alexis on Fire. I mean, no, that's a lie. It definitely started before then with bands like Seven Dust and like Disturbed and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay.
And Limp Bizkit and things like that. But like, I wasn't a diehard fan. I would just like to listen to a few songs here and there. And then I got into like Alexis on Fire and As I Lay Dying. 100% was like where I was like, yo, I didn't know music sounded like this.
Yeah.
And like, I can attribute them to my taste in music, and my vocal style is how I learned how to scream was Tim Lembesis, for sure. And then from there, it just like broadened into bands like Bleeding Through. There was like a huge stint with Between the Buried and Me. I mostly did, I went from like hard rock to like metalcore and a lot of like post-hardcore, things like that. I don't think I really got into hardcore until I really joined this band.
Okay.
And then I started really paying attention because my bandmates were the ones introducing me to bands. There was a band out here that we played with a lot in my earlier bands called Uplift, and I think they were like a posse Toronto hardcore band. and I don't know why I say it hardcore like that. But yeah, they were my, like, I really loved seeing them live and stuff like that. So maybe that was my introduction to them. Shout out to Uplift.
Yeah.
Actually, Peter Elman from Cohesion used to play in Uplift.
Oh, no shit.
And so,
okay, cool.
Yeah, that was my real introduction. And they were the guys that were really accepting and really cool to talk to about music in general. And they weren't the kinds of people that like I was used to that played hardcore, that were like gatekeepers and kind of jerks. And so I realized, oh, hardcore is like a really cool thing. I just met the wrong people.
Sure.
And that's when I was like really into it. I started getting more and more into it.
Yeah. And I feel like that trajectory of what you were talking about as far as like the hard rock, and then it gets harder and harder and harder. Like I feel like that pathway is like, you know, that was very much for me. Like, you know, you pick up an NHL game and you're listening to the soundtrack and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you find As I Die and you're like, whoa, people can do this style of music in this format. And like, it's faster. It's like it's almost like you're hearing double kicks and guitar solos and sweeps for the first time, and you're just processing it when you're in those like earlier years. And then it just goes down the rabbit hole where you're like, you know, it's not like you see it all, but you just understand like where people do it. And it becomes that much more surprising when you see a band doing something really, really new and fresh, to be like, wow, like I thought I'd been around the block long enough, but now there's these new kids who are doing this shit.
I know. When I went from, I still am a huge Slipknot fan. And as they started creating more and more records and things like that, and then I heard As I Lay Dying and that formulaic breakdown, like after like it was like verse, chorus, verse, breakdown, verse, chorus type. So like, I was like, holy shit. And that changed my perspective and I don't know, shaped me, I guess.
Yeah, totally. So let's fast forward a little bit and just talk about, because, you know, one of the, because I know Adam is going to be listening to this. Shout out to Adam in the future. But I know he was one of the very first people that I had on the podcast. I interviewed him in my parents' garage, like when I came to Toronto in February 2020, just before things kind of shut down. So, you know, thinking back, like I was still getting in the groove of like some of the podcast things, and I don't think we talked about as much as the formation of the band and how things came together. So maybe let's break that down a little bit. You know, we got the hardcore origin of Mike. Now let's hear kind of the formation and the origin of Cold Shoulder from the early days, and then we'll kind of fast forward to more current stuff.
Sure. Just shut me up if I start rambling, because I think I've told this story a couple of times to like friends.
Yeah. This is the Cole's Notes or like elevator, you know, version, if you want to make it a little bit more simple. Up to you.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to give it a shot. I swear I'm going to try.
I'm gonna. So it was a week after I got my undergrad degree at university, and I got a call. It wasn't a call. It was a message on Facebook from Jeff, the current guitarist and of Cold Shoulder, and they were like, "Hey, we got a band going, and if you're interested, we need a vocalist because we've had some flaky vocalists that just keep running away on us." I was like, "Dude, yeah, I've been waiting," because it had been quite some time between my last band and I hadn't been doing anything musically really. And so I took a chance on this, and then I ended up talking to Adam. He's like, "Hey, we have music, we have lyrics. All you have to do is show up. We're going to fly you out to LA, and we're going to go record with Nick Jett of Terror." And
okay.
Yeah, so that's like our first EP, and the first record was with Nick Jett. And he's like, I always remember this. He said, "You're going to be our Justin Bieber. Everything's written and done for you. You just got to show up and sing. Like, that's it." And I was like, "Okay, cool. All right, I guess." And so
you just like put on your, you know, you put on your Bieber.
I put on my little swoop.
Yeah. You're like, "All right, baby, let's go."
Yeah, I mean, it was cool because I growing up, I just wanted to be in bands. I wanted to do this. So this felt like I was so worn out by school, man. And just getting the opportunity to even try and do this again, even if it didn't go anywhere, I needed to give it a shot.
Okay.
And so I did. I got on a plane with these strangers because I knew of them, and we knew of each other at shows, but we really didn't know each other that well.
Right.
And so uh, it was kind of a risk for me because I don't do that sort of thing. I don't go out there with strangers
Okay.
very often.
To stop you there. So what was
Yeah,
different about
absolutely.
that opportunity where you knew that it was like, okay, this is maybe a little bit outside of my comfort zone and I'm still going to do that? Like, I'm kind of I want to break that down just a little bit more.
Absolutely. I think it was the fact that the offers weren't rolling in for me
Okay.
as much as I did band stuff before, and they knew me from my previous band, sorry. And like I played shows in Ontario. We never left Ontario. And this was an opportunity to not only play with new people, but to leave Ontario. And even if it's to just record, it's to like go somewhere I've never been before, meet new people. Like I've been doing what I'd been doing by avoiding people all my life, and I wasn't in bands anymore. I wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing. So why not try something new, even if it's a little scary? And so I just plus a free ticket to LA, and I get to scream for a band, even if they weren't my lyrics, and I didn't really enjoy singing stuff I didn't write. It was still very cool. It was still very enjoyable, and I knew I would have a good time with that.
Yeah. I
So
really
it was worth the
appreciate
risk.
you, expressing that a little bit more, because I think sometimes I find with people's trajectories in hardcore is not what you would expect at times. Like, I'm, a month from now I'll be turning 29, and the being in so many different bands and trying different things, it's only at this point that like, things are actually happening with like, getting more attention
Right?
than just outside of like your province. And I think,
Because
ideally you would like to have those in like the early years, but I think that there's like, I think the serendipity of like kind of looking for those opportunities and playing on those different things, and it just sounded like it was, you knew that it was the thing that you needed to take a shot on, even if it was not super comfortable to you. So I think that's really, really interesting, and I'm glad that we hit on it a little bit for other people who are starting to be in bands and like looking for those opportunities. Like sometimes it doesn't happen as exactly how you want it to pan out.
exactly, and if you're bullheaded about it, and I don't know, trying to make it happen yourself, and you miss these opportunities that are flying at you, like especially when they're few and far between, because there's a very thin line of like just beating a dead horse, trying to like you know do the thing you've been doing the whole time and it not working out, right? Like you have to learn when to move on and try something else, right?
Yeah,
That's important for anything.
I think that there's always opportunities for different things with either bands or labels or people that film shows like me. But I think it's about acting on those opportunities and realizing them, and picking and choosing. Because sometimes, like, not going to one thing might not mean something else, but it might be the thing where you're able to say yes in another area. But I think you're totally right. Like,
Exactly.
I think there's huge benefit in playing in multiple different bands with different people, because you learn how to communicate with all these different types of individuals versus just staying in one thing and not being like, why isn't this band that I've been playing in for 8 years like not doing
Yeah,
anything? And sometimes like it's just a matter of time. Like you look at a band like Code Orange, like they didn't really do anything else outside of their world, and they stuck to their guns, and now they're one of the biggest bands in like that hardcore meets metal kind of space. So I think
exactly.
that's more of like a unicorn thing versus how you see bands who have been doing the same old song and dance for years on years and either need to do something to spice it up, or maybe it's a whole nother project altogether.
yeah, they really caught lightning in a bottle with what you described Code Orange is doing. And like I said, I have another band that I started out with, and I've been doing that. Like, we're still a band, but we haven't gone really anywhere and done anything because we're all so busy and we're trying to make it happen. And
Mm-hmm.
you got to do it with different people and see what works and see what relationships you can make and things like that. So
Yeah, and I think it also like is, you know, the urge and like scratching different subgenre desires. You know, like one of the
oh,
bands that
100%.
played Tots, the guitarist played in Final Declaration, but also in a band called Space. Two totally
Yeah,
different styles of bands, but you know, we chat about it after. Like, it's just sick to be able to like, you're not writing a riff that's like, oh, how do I put this metalcore thing into Cold Shoulder, when it's like, well, maybe they're just two separate bands, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit to what's happening in the Cold Shoulder universe right now. So you guys have a new album coming out in the next little while. Talk to me about
Yeah, you.
like, you know, I feel like the timeline as far as like when we caught you guys, you know, we saw you at Snow and Flurry. I think Loudmouth maybe had came out like either just before or just after one of those two.
Yeah, I
And
think it was
then,
just before.
yeah, yeah. And then it was kind of like not a lot going on until kind of right now. So, you know, I know some of the behind the scenes, and you can hit on those as much as you want, but just talk to me about how, you know, the time of you guys writing the album and now that it's starting to actually see the light of day.
I think, dude, I think Loudmouth might have come out late 2018, maybe early 2019 or something like that. And we had demos and all those things for a full record. And we were in with Safe Inside. And I think by the time we got recording this record, it was like last year, December or November of last year, we got recording. And by the time we were done, the timing just wasn't good for releasing it through that label and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up having to sit on it and wait even more. So yeah, like I think if Loudmouth came out in 2018 or 2019, I probably look it up or whatever. Between then and now, we just didn't do anything. Like, well, I mean, in the public space, like we didn't release anything.
Yeah.
We were working hard on getting these songs done, and then we recorded them. But then when we got finished recording and we were told that, oh, look, like the timing's not right, we kind of just like stayed hopeful and sat on it, hoping it would be okay. Because then the pandemic hit, and like everybody was kind of like hit with this question of, well, do we release music because we can't play it? Like, what do we do? Do we sit on it? Do we do this? Like, what do we do?
Mm.
And so we took the gamble of sitting on it and hoping that eventually it could get released. And eventually, I mean, that's a big stressor on all your bandmates. And it almost caused like a big problem for us. And so we just put out some feelers, and New Age hit us back and was like, yeah, we got you. There's time for this. There's money for this. We're going to release this. So it took sitting on it for a year and nearly breaking up. But yeah, that's just pretty much what we had to do, is just work, plan, and sit and wait and hope for a good thing to happen, kind of thing.
Yeah. And you know, I've heard that from a lot of people as far as like recording an album and then, you know, waiting on things and sending it out and talking about timelines with different record labels. And, you know, I think, you know, that's the norm. And then added on with pandemic and just record plans being backed up to shit. So it's like there's a lot of variables to make a band's release actually feel monumentous or special. So,
Exactly.
you know, having all of those things, you know, and so I'm really glad, because I remember Adam sending it to me and I was like really, really impressed with, you know, like it was exactly like I was really hyped on like Loudmouth, because I think that was one of the first songs that I heard from you guys before seeing you. And then being able to go back in your discography and hear different things. And then now this new record is kind of everything with that new cold shoulder vibe to it. So to see it finally coming out is really, really exciting.
Thank you.
What do you think is like maybe the biggest difference vocally that you guys did, or with writing lyrics or anything like that, compared to past stuff or the EPs or maybe singles that you guys did in the past?
So definitely from the first stuff, lyrically, it's just me writing now, and vocally. So also when I first recorded with them, when they first hired me on, they knew I had a pretty wide vocal range because like I listened to a vast breadth of bands or whatever, and they knew I could do highs, lows, mids, like whatever, screamies and yells and things like that. And they told me just for now, they kind of pigeonholed me and told me just do your like aggressive lows. So if you listen to like Self War or the first EP we ever released, I'm very monotonous. And because I didn't want to step on any toes. I'm getting a free ticket here. And so like the lyrics are written for me. Everything's written for me. So fast forward to now, they know I'm not going to do high death metal screams, like high pitched ones or weird things that don't fit the music. And so lyrically, I'm writing my own lyrics and it's very different tonally. It's like very like a fuck you attitude, and I'm just pissed off about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And but I have a lot of different tones that I love to just show off to make it sound like there's 5 different vocalists plus a guest vocalist or something.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Because we only have before, when we first started, almost everybody had a mic on stage and was offering something, and now it's just me and Adam. But even on the new Primal Fury record, it's mostly just me with a little bit of Adam. So I really want to give like a lot of range and a lot of just something different for people to listen to, so it's not monotonous. Because I find a lot of music that I don't end up liking is not because of the music itself, but because I'm a vocal snob, and like, not that I'm great at what I do, but I just need it to not be boring.
You're pretty good at what you do. Don't discredit yourself just yet.
Well, thank you, but I just like, I'm not an expert, and I'm not a veteran at this at all. Like, I've only been doing this for a little bit, but I just know what keeps me interested in music, and I kind of want to just give that to other people. Totally. And not be monotonous and not do the same patterns throughout the whole song and stuff like that. So yeah, that's been the change, is just like changing my vocal tones, sounding very different throughout the song despite it being just me, and lyrically kind of like changing the tone to be more like a fuck you attitude.
Yeah, because there's definitely like a Tasmanian devil kind of vibe when I hear your vocal style. Like, I feel like I feel like a good vocalist when it's done through the recording is when you actually feel the aggression through either the words or like the tones, as you were saying. And I do agree that there are some bands that just have vocalists that have, it's like the same ba 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 ba, and like maybe there's not like playing around with different patterns or trying to go like really crazy in one direction, and it becomes like kind of one dimensional. And like, I really think that when you hear the instrumentals for a song, it's like, okay, that's a pretty cool song. And then, or even if it's the most simple hardcore song, verse, chorus, right, verse, breakdown, adding really, really fine-tuned like vocals on top of it can really make it like into like a, whoa, the song is amazing. So exactly. I do think that I do agree with you that there's a potentially a lack of like certain vocalists like really exploring their range and maybe just sticking to one box.
Yeah. And I don't want to like sound arrogant or anything. There are like many bands that are monotonous and do a great job of it. And I don't know, they like explore different patterns throughout, or are just able to stay monotonous and stay within their pattern and still be interesting on the music they're writing to.
Totally.
Like I'm not necessarily doing anything crazy here, but like I knew what I wanted out of a band like this, and that's why I wanted to do this.
Yeah, and you know, for anyone that is like, I don't know, because like there are bands that like, you know, are very much known for like a certain vocal style, but I do think that like you can experiment just a little bit per release, you know, because I think
Exactly.
when Knocked Loose was like starting to actually hit their upward trajectory, I think it was on their not their first album, but their second album where Brian started to experiment with more like speaking bits and like things like that just to kind of do that. And you know, now seeing videos of them live, like he's got insane lows, but he doesn't really like
Yeah.
do that a lot of the time because Isaac kind of handles that corner. So, you know,
Exactly.
it's kind of that thing where it's like, well, what happens on their next release? Is it just going to be like you got your classic Brian high fry and then just this combined gutturals from both vocalists? I don't know.
I've noticed that too. Like I've noticed that there's a lot of vocalists that when you see them live, they're capable of like this huge range, and you never hear it like on the records and stuff. And it's fascinating to me. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a good segue into one of the other questions I had, because I think something, you know, Cultural has been a band for a really, really long time, but something that I've noticed about you, you know, mentioning how, you know, it's changed over the years of like now it's like my decisions on the types of tones and placement and all that. So, you know, when you guys play certain songs live and listening to them recorded, some parts you take certain liberties of like, okay, I do this part more so live, or I speak it live versus if I'm screaming on the recording. So like, why do you think that's important for bands to do? Because I think that really like adds to the live show, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just kind of curious where your head goes.
No, honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think giving variety and not doing exactly what's on the record is kind of like a fun way to switch it up, because you're not going to drastically change anything, but doing like a little spoken part instead of a scream, or changing your tone to make a part heavier live is a crazy cool thing that people appreciate. I know myself, I appreciate that kind of thing when I see it live. So I can only imagine other fellow music enjoyers will like really like that kind of shit, right? Like
Totally.
you don't want the same thing all the time, because that gets boring. And you're listening to a record to death. Even if it's your favorite record of the year, you listen to it over and over and over again. You can breathe new life into a record by just doing something different live, and then that person has a new appreciation for that thing they've been in love with for a long time.
Yeah. I'm finding even with endgame stuff, it's like sometimes we're like going back and forth, like, should this ring out or should we go right into it? And sometimes it's like, well, we can do this way on the recording, but live we can do it this way and it'll actually hit harder. So
Exactly.
I'm kind of curious if you have a favorite thing that Cold Shoulder does in your guys' live setting that, you know, maybe didn't make the recording, if that makes sense.
Dude, God, I can't even remember which song it is. I don't want to like kill a bunch of time trying to like rifle through my shitty 2 brain cells that are working here. But there is a song where it's like during a breakdown, and there's like the guitars are mostly like spaced out in their chugs, but Jeff decided to add like a couple more chugs in it or some shit like that. Yeah, I think it's in either in Livid or Absent Mind. When we play that live, it's definitely different than when we recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much heavier. And I can't help but smile most of the time when we're playing it, because I'm like, this is my shit. Like, I'm about this. This is so sick.
Totally.
And like,
and I feel
so
like
there's definitely examples of that.
Yeah, and I think those small additions can just like go from like people getting a little hyped to like, okay, we're gonna hold this out, and like holding it out on like the recording almost feels a little obnoxious because it's just you in your car listening to it or whatever. But
Right.
it almost plays better in a live setting because you can really like play up the audience participation. So, you know, since we're talking about the live aspect, Toys for Tots just happened as far like maybe a week ago as far as the time we're recording this. So like that was like, you just correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was the first Toronto hardcore show back and your guys' first show back as well. So, like how sorry, you go.
So no. I think there were other hardcore shows that happened, but they were like kind of like off the grid and like I think there was one that happened under a bridge, like in the summer or some shit.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely ours first. Yeah. Sorry. Our first show. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But nothing on the like the scale of like it's in a venue, there's a flyer, there's, people, there's other bands from other parts of the world. And it's funny because when I think about it, like seeing how the States kind of got into, playing and having shows and doing those kind of things happen kind of in the summertime, and then all the TikToks and memes about like Canada lockdown, and really like a lot of it was just Ontario and Toronto as far as like you guys having crazy lockdown rules. Here in Alberta, it was kind of wild west at some points of the summer.
Y'all were wilding.
Dude, yeah, it's yeah, but without getting too much on the pandemic talk, just talk to me about like how that first show back for you went and what that did for you on a personal level.
Dude, being able to play these new songs after sitting on them and wearing them to death and actually learning to hate them because I played them so much and having nobody else listen to them, being able to play them live for the first time and see people's reaction to it, see people fill up a room in Toronto where there are so many other things to do on any given night, but they chose to be there. I don't know. I don't want to quit this band anymore. Not that like at all. No, I didn't. I'm over that. Like we're all over that. But dude, I want to do this so badly again now. Like it breathed new life into my passion of the band, of heavy music, of just, I want to get back out on the road because that night went so well. And it was very nerve-wracking leading up to it because who knows what was going to happen. Like the venue within their rights could have said last minute, no, this shit's not happening anymore, as more and more people got through the door, or even before. So like it was very nerve-wracking. It was also nerve-wracking it being our first show in what felt like a decade, because it's one thing to practice, but then being on stage, having worked a full day and having all these things on your mind all throughout the day, you fuck up live, that's your first show back. That is so defeating. So I was worried about that too. And just like, I don't know, having none of those things happen. Like I want to do this more than I've ever wanted to before, now that everything went well.
Yeah. And yeah, it was pretty surreal. 'Cause like, the last time I saw you guys was at Snow and Flurry Fest in 2019, and that was just your guys' last show. And so to be able to be filming from the exact same angle that it was at that fest, it felt like that time just flew by, and we were like, whoa, right? We just transported from Minneapolis to Toronto, and now we're doing the same thing again. Exactly. But it was really, really cool to see you guys, on home turf as well. And I think that was very, very special. And yeah, like Toronto is like a city that, especially for just like live music in general, like not just like hardcore or metalcore, this or blah, blah, blah. Like there's so many different options for people to do. So I feel like sometimes I feel like Toronto at times gets spoiled when it comes to like, we're doing a North American tour, and then you guys are the only one that gets a date, and then Western Canada gets totally ignored. But at the same time, like it would be naive to only think that like, oh, there's this surplus and everyone's going to everything. But it's like, it's a supply and demand thing when it comes to anything in that city, it seems.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Or any city, pretty much. Like, yeah. If you make it happen.
Yeah. So, you guys put out that one song with the music video, which I thought was very, very funny because it's a total like, you expect it could just to be you guys like performing in some kind of barn, and then you just like something breaks in your head and you're like, it's time to kill every member of my band. And so watching that, I just got such a kick out of that. I don't know like what the creative plan was around that, because like I think it was kind of like a It felt like a very like M. Night Shyamalan, like, "Ooh, gotcha. Here's the twist."
Yeah, actually, there was supposed to be an even deeper twist to the end where I actually get killed, having killed most of the band members, and then there was going to be one lone survivor that just kind of whacks me in the head or something. But nobody would ever believe that any of my band members could take me out. Come on.
Come on.
Nah,
bro.
No. It's I think the whole thought process was just like the song in general. We try not to take ourselves seriously at all. And like, if you've ever met us, despite our stage performance and like the way we act on stage and stuff, we're not serious people. We don't take ourselves seriously at all. And so writing a song about just like ditching those shitty friends that weigh you down through life, I wanted to like kind of reflect on almost wanting to like leave this band, or just like wanting to just ditch or like literally kill people that bring you down or frustrate you. Not that I would ever do that sort of thing. Like any of my no, because like these guys, as much as we've been through, we're brothers, and like I mean that with my whole heart. And like we always at the end of the day talk through these things, but it was just like a funny way for people that know us to see that video. And even if people don't know us, whatever, fuck them, like to see that video and then see like the vocalist murdering everybody because he's frustrated over a broken guitar string and getting bumped into,
right,
and then turning into this like crazy thing. Like, we just thought it would be funny, so we just took it there.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because it is like that thing where, yeah, on the surface it's like kind of funny how like the vocalist like has the like Singulitis in a way where it's like, how dare you break a string and ruin my time in the spotlight. But like I do like that like deeper meaning of like, well, the song's about this, so we like played on a funny trope, but like anyone that dug a little deeper, you know, could kind of get some of the why behind the rest of the song as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like in the end, I look like an egotistical maniac, like most vocalists, and like the littlest thing has bothered me and whatever. But yeah, like there's a little more, and especially if you know who we are as people, it's funny. Laugh. Come on, laugh.
Yeah, I thought it was. It's funny that you mentioned that because I have seen those. I have been watching certain bands play, and the minute that something's going wrong, you could see it on their face where they're like so pissed about it. And it could be anything from like a festival to like a local show. And it's like, bro, like shit happens. Like it's
right.
Yeah, it's all good. So it's just funny how you kind of played up on that, like, how dare this happen? It's time to end your life.
Yeah, like, dude, I never understood that. Like, shit happens. Like, I don't know if you were shitting yourself secretly during your set when the cables were like messing up and you couldn't hear the guitar properly.
Mm-hmm.
You guys handled that so fucking well and kept going. And I'd love to see that because it's nobody's fault. Like, who cares? Just get through the set. Everybody's having a good time. It's when you focus on that thing and are negative about it that the whole room comes down with you.
Right.
Everybody's fine with it. Nobody has a problem with it until you do. So
yeah. And there's definitely times in a certain set where it's like you have to hard stop, like the band has to stop, like, and that could be anything from like a fight breaking out to like something is on fire or things like that.
Oh no, of course.
But if you can get through the song and have a quick like technical fix, and you know, at the same time, there's so many facets of this where I always think that like when some of those things are happening, it's like the vocalist needs to kind of, you know, help carry the conversation kind of through to the next song. And as someone who films shows, I feel like some of those unexpected moments kind of puts the pressure on that vocalist to actually, like, you know, say, not like saying something meaningful, but say something that's true to them, especially filming those shows. You know, that's not written into the script. That just happened serendipitously of like the amp catching on fire and then the guitarist is trying to grab the new amp and the guitar player is talking about something off of, you know, their love of hardcore or something political. There's so many different ways, but I think to your point, like being able to like, okay, what's the scale of this situation? do I need to do anything, or can we just keep pumping through the rest of the set and not have
Yeah.
like, you know, try to maximize the vibe versus try to be like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's like a real world improv skill that you need to like, there's like the scripted aspect and the practiced aspect. And then there's just like the improv where you have to be able to work on the fly. That's it.
So, so maybe come full circle on some of the new record stuff. Do you have a personal favorite song? But I want you to tell me what your favorite song is based off of the working song name, because I know when you guys shared the the checkbox, there was all like the different working song names. So I want you to say the song, but I want you to use the working song title. Because you guys had some good working song titles on that whiteboard.
I think, man, I'd have to probably go and look it up because those are
all
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to like detract from the podcast by being on my phone like a jackass, but no, because it's funny because as soon as Jeff presents us a demo, the demo already has those working titles, and that's what we go with until I figure something out or we figure something out to replace it with. So I'm usually furiously trying to think of something to replace it quickly so that working title doesn't become a title even after
for the actual song.
Because eventually if it stays long enough and it's funny, it'll become that name way past after it's changed to a real name, right? Like, and I don't want that to happen because then we forget.
You're like, fumble, I really don't want this song to be called Fuck Shit. Like,
yeah, we had one called Fuck Shit Squadron, and it was really funny, but like, oh yeah, here we go. I found it. True. So I think do I only get one choice?
I know
it's
two. Like this is a no rules podcast, Mike.
Oh hell yeah! All right, I definitely have two. So I think our next single is gonna be the one that the working title is called "Time and Pressure," and I think it was named after the band Time and Pressure. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rip.
Yeah. From
so one of the great Safe Inside bands that gone too soon, in my opinion. They're way too soon. As far as the time of recording this episode, I think a couple weeks ago, I put out their final set from Promcore, and it was like easily one of the favorite sets of that weekend. But anyways, Time and Pressure, shout out, rip. That's the next single, and again, that's not the actual title, it's the working title.
Yeah, so I'm not giving away anything here. I don't think the guys or anybody cares anyway. Like, who cares? We've been sitting on this shit for a year. But I love that song, and I think I showed one of the members of Time and Pressure that song as soon as we had it done, and he was stoked and stuff like that. That was cool. But yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. I'm excited to get that out.
Cool.
And then we have another one called it used to be called Spicy Crunch, and it's the closer on the album. It went from being called Spicy Crunch to First Blood, and it's definitely one of my favorite tracks that we've ever done. It's just unreal. I cannot wait till we can add that to our set list.
Yeah. Does it sound like a spicy crunch? Like that's what literally gave it its name.
Yeah, I think it's like it's gotta be the heaviest song we've ever done. Like, definitely the heaviest I've ever done my vocals for. And cool. and the breakdowns and stuff like that, and just the way it was written. I don't know, Jeff's got that 200 IQ shit going on in that one. So
this breakdown's so for good, the 200 man. IQ homies in the house.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny hearing some of the working titles. This is a while back in season 1. I had Sierra, who sings for a band called No Right out of the Bay, and we were talking about how she will have working titles and it changes per release. So there was one where all the songs on the EP were named after fruit, and one song was called Lemon, and then the actual song title that made it on the record is called Sour. So it's just like that, like really inspired
Oh,
me. So like ever since then I was like, I need to figure out my own like working title stuff for Endgame. So
that's cool.
this might be a podcast first, but this is for any of the Pokemon nerds out there. All Endgame demos are just named after a Pokemon move. So I'm like, hey guys,
That's
here's a new
cool.
demo. It's called Double Kick. Learn it, like like shit like that.
Do you write the lyrics as well, or are you just music? Like, what do you contribute? Like, or is it like a little bit of everything, or what do you do?
So I think like and not we're gonna go a quick detour in Endgame stuff, and then we're gonna bring it back to Cold Shoulder because
I'm so
Cold
sorry. I
no
don't
no
mean to do this.
you're like
Yeah.
no sorry. I think as the primary songwriter, I'm writing like I'm having all the instruments and vocals kind of in mind, but I think Wolfgang
Cool.
and I have a bit of a rhythm now where he'll come up with a premise and we'll have like a big brainstorm, and then I think I'm a little bit better at like placing phrasing and being like, okay, this part actually only needs a couple lines, like let's keep it like a little bit more open, just like we want this two step to really hit. Let's not even put any vocals in it. So, yeah, that's kind
Cool.
of where that's at. So, I would like if I've been in bands where I've done like everything or nothing, and I feel like this is a nice blend of both.
Yeah, that's great because it's always interesting to hear that kind of stuff because the way I do it, I write lyrics before I've even heard a demo. I'll just like be driving or in the shower or doing anything else and come up with a cool line and then expand on that. And then I'll get a demo and I'll see where on what demo that particular line will fit and then expand from there. And it's usually little to no involvement from anybody else. Occasionally it'll be Adam kind of coming in and seeing what patterns can work where and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's just like it's a very different process, and I like hearing other people's processes. So
Yeah, totally. And I think being able to, when that inspiration hits, like writing that down in your notes on your phone, or if you have a pen and paper. I'm having
yeah,
flashbacks to when we had Jordan from Momentum on the podcast. So, being someone who would drive all over California via work, he would like pull off the freeway because he thought of a cool line, wrote 4 bars, and then got back on the freeway to get
that's
home.
that's
So
literally what I would do.
yeah, you would
Except
be
I'm
on
not
the
in California. I'm in
on
Ontario.
the
On the
401, and then just like
401.
yep,
Yeah, yep,
right back on.
exactly.
Yeah, I do not miss driving on that road from this past weekend because you Ontario drivers, you see 100 kilometers per hour, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna do 130. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have pockets like in and around the city where it's like worse. If you're in the Peel region, I think the whole rule book gets thrown out and people just start driving whatever they want to do, sort of thing. And then you have the like, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely can understand that people coming in new to the city, new to the area, having to get around it's a different vibe here. You just do what you want. And I mean, like everybody could be doing 130 and then that one cop just will be having a bad day and pick on you. And you still get that huge ticket despite keeping to pace with the rest of traffic and sort of
Totally.
thing. So
Yeah, because nothing is worse than doing like 10 over and then you're being like, people whizzing by you and cutting you off. And, it's, I don't know. So like, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole of like, how should speeds on highways be worked
no.
out? But, yeah, Toronto drivers are, built different, I think.
Oh, we built different, son. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of being built different, I'm gonna use it as a segue because I know you're a big powerlifting guy, and a little swole. I know at the end of both cold shoulder sets, I've heard you say, eat your veggies and do your squats, and you clearly do both of those things. So maybe we can hit on powerlifting first and then move over to veggies. But like, when did that passion for you get introduced, and like how did you get intrigued by that?
I think growing up watching like 80s and 90s action movies with like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like Sly Stallone and Jackie Chan even.
Totally.
I just like really, really wanted to be physically capable.
Mm-hmm.
And then growing up having like severe asthma, just like being really skinny and tiny and like weak and sickly. I think I really aspired to just like outgrow that and just be physically capable. And I think like I gained like a small obsession when I hit high school, and I never played any sports, but I just wanted to be the fastest and the strongest and things like that. And then it just like it grew from there, because then I was able to like, I think it boils down to just being able to, I don't know, it just feels really good to lift something really heavy and just do it properly. Like that's just like, and I don't compete. I'm not a professional. I'm like amateur at best, especially for my weight class, considering the numbers I lift. And so I don't want anybody to think I think I'm some sort of hot shot or something, because I'm definitely not. I just think I'm very passionate about it, and it's still something I hold dear to myself. And like, yeah, again, like the action movies of the early 80s and 90s, and just like growing up and also seeing like strongman competitions from that era too. It just like, it was always something I wanted to do as a kid, but then it took me so long to outgrow asthma and like beat all these like shitty little ailments I had growing up. And then, yeah, into my 20s, I just like decided to join a gym while I was at school to just like, you know, kind of like blow off some steam with stress in school and stuff like that. And then took it further and further, started taking it more seriously, and love to squat is what became of that.
Yeah. It's interesting though to hear how when you were in school, you didn't really have like a drive or a passion or a desire to like try to be on a certain team or like do a certain sport or anything like that, but you still wanted to have that like, you know, that strength and that like determination and all those things. And, you know, like, I think everyone's got their own path as far as like, some people really value and benefit from like being on like a team. Like my wife, she did rugby, she did soccer, she did basketball, and like a lot of those like team building things and like working really hard and like no excuses, like that kind of shit, like really set her up to be, you know, like who she is today. And like when I met her, but I do think that, you know, that's not a copy paste for everyone. Some people do need that more individualistic. You know what? I fucked up on this word the last podcast I did. I think that this word is just not, you know, married to Spencer. I think so. Fuck. So I think everyone's got their like individual thing that they are best at, and maybe it's just a matter of like figuring that out and finding it. And I think like
exactly
some gym stuff, like there's always gym trends that come and go, like whether it's like deadlifting is really big one year and then it's CrossFit and then it's this and then it's this. But I do think that deadlifting is something that is really interesting to me as far as like, yeah, like being able to lift really, really heavy amounts of, you know, weights, but it's also like not something that you can easily like, not that it's not easy to get into, but you know, you could do it super, super incorrectly and have no results and actually worse results because you're actually like hurting yourself. So, what was like an early piece of advice in that world that taught you how to kind of set you up a little bit better to where you're at now?
Buddy, I wish I got any advice. I don't think I had anybody to talk to, and I learned all this stuff just kind of like looking at the internet and feeling how it should, or like YouTube videos is kind of how I learned how to do everything. Because like I was saying, I didn't play any sports. I hated jock mentality. I don't hate being on a team. I just hated being in a locker room with a team, like even in gym class.
Yeah.
And so I think learning myself which is not something I would even advise to doing for other people if they want to get into it. Definitely talk to somebody. If you can, talk to someone you see doing good numbers, good things, doing things the way you want to do them. If they look the way you want to look, like muscularly, if you want to do bodybuilding, that kind of thing, get advice from people that are doing the things you want to do. Because being an island is a shitty fucking thing sometimes. Like I think I started going to the gym when I was, God, it had to have been 10 years ago now, maybe. And, buddy, I was ego lifting and goofing around and doing the most incorrect shit. I feel like I've only learned how to really squat or deadlift in the last maybe 5 years, and I've been doing it for more than 10. And so just like really, if you're passionate about something, make sure you do your research, proper research, like look at different lifters and look at competitors and how they're doing it, see if they have tutorials on YouTube and kind of study that, like foot placement, hand placement, things like that. Because yeah, you're right. You can really fuck yourself up doing a squat wrong or doing a deadlift wrong, doing a bench wrong, doing anything wrong, but you can like sleep wrong. I hear about people sleeping and they wake up shitty. So like, I mean, I don't think there's like a YouTube tutorial on sleep, but definitely if you're passionate about lifting and things like that, I would advise look to someone else. I didn't have anybody like that. So I looked up power lifters, people that competed at my weight class, and then just like learn from them. And I was lucky enough they had tutorials on their websites and stuff for free.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that you broke down like proper research, not like, okay, how's the quickest way, if you're clicking on a video about powerlifting and it's like how to get to X weight class in a month, 3, like don't look for shortcuts.
Exactly.
Because I think most good things in life are marathon excursions and take time. Like something my mom told me forever growing up is like good things take time. And that could be anything from like being in a successful band to like changing your body dynamics to be more in the, into where you want it to be versus maybe how you've been. But all of that takes time. And I think it's very crucial to like ask questions with people that you trust. Don't just like DM some kind of like deadlift influencer on Instagram and have him take his $100 mastermind course or anything like that. But I think it's important to reach out to people that you trust and understand that like the classic like I just want to pick your brain about whatever, like be gracious because people taking time out of their day is still time out of their day. But if someone was messaging me about like, hey, I have questions about starting a podcast or filming bands, like I'm eager to get to those things because I think a lot of people can rush to different things and then they end up don't doing it all together. So I'm all for people being able to do that, and I would encourage people to just ask and be curious and chase that curiosity.
Definitely. I definitely would too. And I've always been an open book about that kind of thing. And I think I've put it out there into the universe and on socials and things like that to like, dude, like if I can, I will message you back if you ask me a question. If you have questions about diet, being vegan, again, I'm not an expert in any field, but I will give you help in any way I can because I think these things are important to me, and I love sharing that with other people because if I can change someone's perspective for the better and help them be as passionate as I am about the things I love, dude, that adds pounds to my fucking lifts. Like it makes me so happy.
Totally.
So
yeah, it's giving you more and more reasons to just like put on that extra weight. Like this is for all the people that asked me on the DMs today.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I love it.
You brought up being vegan, and with anything in life when it comes to health, there's exercise and diet, and those play a hand. And you
Mhm.
and I brought up a little earlier that you're like, do your squats and eat your veggies, and you seem to be big on the veggies. So, big question
Definitely.
here: what's the most underrated veggie, and what's the most overrated veggie, in your opinion?
Oh man, that's a tough one because I'm not sure that there is an overrated vegetable.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe the carrot. Not a big fan of the carrot. A lot of people like carrots. I don't know. I don't fuck with them that much.
I don't
I
know
don't
why.
know.
How
And I
you're
think,
responding to that is like a carrot, like Bugs Bunny
yeah,
esque.
I just turn into a rabbit. Yeah, I don't know. Cut it, cut it. No, I think, uh, I think, I feel like a lot of people, you know what? I find a lot of people hate broccoli, and broccoli at all times, we have 4 heads of broccoli in our fridge every day. It has to be there. If we eat some of it, we'll go through two for a meal or something. We got to go buy those two again. And I think
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people like it as well, but I hear a lot of people hate on it, and it is so good. I feel like if there's any food you hate, and this could probably kick me in the ass again, uh, and come around to against carrots, because I feel like if there's a food you hate, like tofu or broccoli or whatever, you haven't learned how to cook with it yet.
Mm.
And that's another thing I love doing is I love cooking. I love learning new things and how to cook. And yeah, dude, you like char some broccoli in a pan with some salt, and you put on some lemon juice, and you get it like nice and charred, and flip it over, and oh buddy, there's few things better on this planet than that. And like same with tofu. Like it's not the same cooking process, but a lot of people don't like tofu because it's like this bland, blank, chewy thing. But learning how to cook and add flavor to that thing, because tofu can become anything you want it to be.
Yeah, it's a blank canvas as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Sorry, I'm rambling, but
No.
I think to answer you, carrots, boo, broccoli, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I feel like carrots are a very one-dimensional vegetable. Like, yeah, like you can,
That's how I feel.
like I feel like I'll only really fuck with a carrot if it's being dipped into something, Like it's got to have like a hummus or like
If it's raw.
Yeah, if it's raw. Like doing like, and I'm saying this just last night, Brent and I went out and we had like this bomb carrot cake, which was really, really good. But that's a combination of like a bunch of different things.
Yeah, right.
Carrots on its own though, as like a carrot dish is like kind of boring. But I do, I think broccoli is up there as far as like a one that is underrated. Like not as many people talk about the broccoli. Not as many people fly the flag for broccoli gang or things like that.
And Brussels sprouts.
And Brussels sprouts, I was
Equally,
just going to say yes.
Mm.
So good. I had some kick-ass Brussels sprouts at this place yesterday as well. And growing up, I was just like a very like meat and potatoes kind of family. And like my mom would try to push the veggies and I was always like, bleh. Like I would only eat like the carrots with like the ranch dip or whatever at the time. And now, and I think that's, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think for myself being vegetarian for like a number of years now, like it was only when it was weird. Like when meat was cut out, it was like, okay, now I'm going to explore vegetables and some of those things, and then actually finding out how to cook some of those things in different ways, like, and not just having it where it's like meat alternatives as the only thing, like almost like kind of prioritizing the vegetables. So do you have like a go-to, like either pre or post workout kind of like vegetable like dish that is like your go-to thing if it was like it's been a long day? Even if it was like your final meal of your life, and you had to cook it. I'm kind of curious on what you would whip up.
Do you know what a full English is?
No. Tell me about
Okay,
that.
so a full English breakfast is, I think it's like it's bacon, sausage, eggs, grilled tomatoes, grilled spinach, mushrooms, and like black pudding discs.
Okay.
Which is like I think it's like a black, or it's like a blood sausage disc.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so instead of all that gross meat shit, I make it a vegan full English. Oh, and beans and toast.
Oh,
So
okay.
like, yeah, it's like a full English. So like, I would do a tofu scramble with like spinach, peppers, shallots, garlic, and mushrooms. And then I'll cut up like some sort of sausage to incorporate into that. Then I'll grill tomatoes and extra mushrooms on the side, spinach, and things like that. Have toast. There's a bakery like up the road from us that called Mabel's. Shout out to Mabel's. And they have like a sweet sourdough, like a really, really, really fucking good whole wheat sourdough. Couple of slices of that with some like standard grocery store Heinz like baked beans, and then just like some sort of like vegan sausage and like Beyond breakfast sausage and bacon. Brother, you got
That's
yourself a meal.
that sounds bomb.
It's a bit of work to prepare all of that and be ready all at the same time, but body, it's such a good post workout meal, and especially with like the tofu scramble, because you add nutritional yeast, you add your turmeric, so like you have all these flavors and colors, and everything's bright and beautiful. And I don't know. I just want to also I want to put this out there. I'm not. I think I'd kick myself if it went out there that I'm vegan for health reasons. I'm completely not. I'm the biggest and fattest I've ever been, having been a vegan. I'm doing this solely for the animals,
Yeah.
because I don't want animal suffering on this world, and I don't think it's right. I just got to plug my little hippy dippy shit, because I feel like I would kick myself if it got out there that I'm doing this for health reasons, because it's 100% not, and it never has been.
No, I got you. I think like
Yeah,
that's that's different for a lot of people. Like I'm on the flip side of that coin where while for me it was like I'm gonna try not eating meat to kind of see if that helps with some of the health stuff that I have in the mix of things with having like Crohn's and
of course.
inflammation and things like that. And I think that has just like, oh, like that was super attainable, like going vegetarian first, and the idea of like trying to eat as vegan as I can, but also like that, like, oh, I do just feel better in general because like an animal didn't have to suffer, because I'm choosing this than the what most people are going to be choosing for their breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I do think that is
Right.
that's it's an interesting thing to see for a lot of people they go for those reasons, but then to see a lot more people just integrate that a little bit more into their overall lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Have you found that it works towards your Crohn's or anything, or like inflammation in general?
Yes,
Because I
absolutely.
know there's a lot of anti-inflammatories in like heavy greens and like turmeric and things like that. And just curious, because I don't have anything that would like give me data towards that. So
Yeah.
I was just curious.
I th-
That's
I
sick, man.
I think the only thing, and I think I can't really bottle this up as like it's the sole reason, but I think it's a combination of multiple things. But just like trying to, because Crohn's is like a disease that's like very like not having a lot of energy, so like there's like an iron deficiency. I've been trying to kind of
Right.
find the right method or pathway into like to doing that while still kind of like bring that up versus trying to like drink chai at 8:30 at night or whatever.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on that, being the vegan expert of the podcast here?
Just like, dude, just having a balanced, as cliche as it is, just balance, man. Like, uh, I mean, I've promoted myself as mostly, if you were to look at my Instagram and shit like that or Twitter, all I eat is donuts, but that's like not reality.
Right.
Like you have to have balance, man, and understanding nutrition. If you want to do things, I've noticed a lot of people when they say they did a certain thing for health reasons, they didn't do it for health reasons. A lot of the times they did it is because it's trendy at the time, and they didn't look into the nutrition of what they're doing or their needs and things like that. So having balance and like, dude, a multivitamin will help fill in those gaps, or just like eating properly, planning your day, meal prep, things like that. Just being mindful, reading a little bit, like 5 minutes of reading is all it takes, dude. Like the information is free and available. So I think it's never been easier than now to be conscious of what you're doing and really learn about nutrition and being vegan or vegetarian, or even if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to be a coward and eat meat and eat animals, you still have sickly people that do that too. Learn about doing that correctly too if you're going to be a coward.
Sure.
Just like get your vitamins and minerals and things their body needs.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think you know, with the podcast that I run for work, like we had someone who came on and just talked about like wellness, whether that's like mental and physical, it is a journey. It isn't something that you can just like wake up one day and you change everything aspect and you're like, okay, now I'm going to feel amazing out the gate. And I think it takes times to find those moments of like really shifting, and whether that's like I'm not eating meat anymore, or I'm going vegan, or like I have to go to the gym, like whatever it is. I think it's about recognizing those and then like starting to implement that, but being gracious on yourself that does take time, and that doesn't happen overnight. And I think a lot of people just they try to go zero to hero with a lot of things, you know, like they hear a vegan straight edge band and that inspires them to do that, which is great. But then going from eating meat to just only eating Oreos because it's vegan is like, maybe that's not actually the best way to be like setting things up for yourself. So I think you need to like be self-aware and ask the questions of like, okay, what does my body actually need? And then find the right solution with, you know, things that aren't just like oh, well, if you eat this, then it covers all these bases. It's like, all right, like experiment and try different things out and find your rhythm.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So we talked about we talked about overrated and underrated veggies. Is there any veggies as a vegan that you despise altogether? And you're like, I don't care if I'm, you know, veggies only, there's no way I'm touching one of these.
There's something from the West Indies called Karila. It's I think over here you guys call it bitter melon. Okay. And it's literally this wrinkly, bright green. It looks like a cucumber that was shit out. I don't know. It looks terrible. And being West Indian and like my parents are from Guyana, we grew up, my parents my mom tried to cook that for us, and it is called bitter melon because this thing literally tastes like poison. I don't think human beings are meant to eat this. She swears that she likes it.
Right.
Dude, I have tried it into adulthood. I've tried it when I was a kid. It still tastes like I'm not supposed to eat this. This was put on earth to kill people. And I don't know. My mom still swears she likes it. I know a lot of people hate okra. I love okra. But the bitter melon, we call it Karila, is disgusting.
It's a pretty scary name. Like that just sounds like something I don't want to put, you know, don't you put it in your mouth. Exact, you know?
Yeah. And there's all these like the pseudoscience and the wives' tales of like, oh, it's good for your blood and this and that. I've done no research, and I just know I'm not supposed to eat this thing. I know people aren't supposed to, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I just have a gut feeling that I'm not supposed to eat this, nor should anyone
Yeah.
on this God
No.
Dude, well, I got a couple more questions here, Mike, before we start to wrap up.
Yeah.
Tell me about changing your guys' transmission while on tour in a parking lot.
True. Yeah. So we were on an East Coast run. We were supposed to go, I think it was just with Swing Low we were supposed to go with. And they had to drop and it sucked so bad, but we were like, we got to still do this. We've never gone East Coast down to Florida. We got to do this. And so we were headed through, I think it was West Virginia or Virginia, Bland, Virginia or something is the name of the town.
Bland, we were on Virginia?
Literally BLAND.
Damn.
Could not make this up. We're on an overnight drive and I'm asleep in my bunk and I just feel us come to a halt. And apparently Adam was driving and the transmission just shit the bed. And long story short, we found an ambulance we found a scrapyard that had an ambulance with the correct transmission for our bus. Cause we drive. Yeah. Right. We drive a decommissioned old folks home shuttle bus as our tour bus.
Yes.
And so like there's no trailer or nothing. And so apparently this ambulance at a scrapyard a half an hour away had the exact transmission we needed. So we went down to Florida. We rented a cargo van with no windows, packed all of our shit in the back of the van, all of our blankets, and just sat in this closed thing in the dead of summer, boiling to death with no windows, no AC. Went down to Florida, left our bus in a random like backwoods gas station where you're like almost certain if you stop here for gas, you're going to get murdered. We left the bus there with some of our shit, played a couple shows. We only missed one show. I think it was in Alabama, which I'm pretty grateful for being the only colored person in the band because I've heard some things. Came back up, got the transmission, and then just spent that day under the bus. Jeff is inside the bus with all the panels ripped out, trying to pull it up while I'm underneath it, bench pressing it, while Ryan is, he has a beer and Instagram living the whole thing. And Adam is the most
important job of this whole thing.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean, like, people were gracious enough when we put it up that this was happening to us. We got a flood of donations and merch buys.
Oh, okay.
And
I got you. So you're like, hey, your money is going to something.
Yeah. I think he was doing the whole street team thing and giving the people what they wanted.
I love the visual of you bench pressing this and him just being like, yeah, bro. Yeah, you're doing a great job.
He was supposed to be helping me. That thing was fucking heavy. I could actually feel my arms giving. And like, it was pretty scary because I was underneath this whole thing.
Right.
It was very scary. And then Adam directed us.
Context for all this, you're not like in someone's garage, like you're in a parking lot. Like it's a very
in the parking lot of what you would think is an abandoned gas station, like run down to shit in the middle of nowhere, Bland, Virginia. And we put it in, got her running, and didn't miss any other shows. We literally missed one show because of this ordeal, and we replaced. I mean, shout out to everybody.
Which for most bands, like they would be taking it to like a shop, and then it's like, oh, it's going to be a week for this, and then they're probably like,
they're fucked.
Yeah, and canceling the entire run. But like the fact that you guys were able to find something and literally like DIY it yourselves in like the most obscene, like that's like one of those things where if you like, I'm sure there was multiple people on that day driving by that gas station and looking over and being like, what's going on over there with those
honestly,
kids?
I honestly don't think anybody drove by is how remote we were.
Oh fuck. Yeah. So
like it was all forest, all road type shit. Like, we were fucked if we didn't figure this out ourselves.
Yeah.
And luckily, Adam is a truck mechanic. So huge shout out to everybody like in our band. But if we didn't have Adam there and then, and obviously me for my bench press skills, we'd be fucked. We'd be literally fucked.
Yeah, everyone's skill sets all came in clutch for that moment. It sounds like you're like, all right, I have the muscles to do this. Adam's got the brains. We got the Instagram live. We got Jeff just ripping shit apart. So real team building exercise. It sounds like.
Exactly. It was really good, and it definitely showed that. I mean, I think it set us back like $2,000 for the transmission, but we got that in merch sales and donations in like less than 12 hours or something.
Dude,
and so we were able to figure it out so quickly, get back on the road and get back home. And I think that's the transmission that's currently in there now.
Oh, so she's still kicking.
Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Haven't had to do any. All right, lift it back up and rewire anything or whatever. So
no.
Yeah, hopefully not for a while. Knock on wood.
No, but at least we know we can.
Yes, at least you can. That's the main thing.
Literally, our determination is unmatched. Like I feel like that kind of pressure and that kind of like setback would just break anybody's soul. I just thought we were done. I thought we were done that tour.
Yeah.
So
that's that primal fury where you gotta like really come together, And
you either bench press it or your skull gets crushed. So that's what you gotta do.
Damn. Well, Mike, this has been a really great chat. The last question of the podcast that I have to ask here, and this is the reoccurring question that I ask all my guests, is a favorite mosh story that they would like to end the episode on. So that could literally be anything that's first to your mind. So that could be something that you did, something that happened to you, something that happened at a Cold Shoulder show, or just a show that you were at. Whatever's first to the dome is how we kind of start to end the show here.
Is it mosh? Like it has to be mosh centered?
It's mosh related.
Or just show centered?
I would say mosh related. So, like some people have told show stories that have talked about shows that had crazy moshing, but not a specific thing. But yeah, again, there's no rules podcast. People could just say mosh and then we could wrap it up,
Okay. Mosh. No. All
right. Thanks for listening.
So I used to, our first time through the not our first time through the Midwest, but our first time through the Midwest that took us to Oklahoma, I developed this weird habit during our set of punching myself in the face while doing lyrics and stuff to like, I don't know what got through my head to just fucking do that shit as though I'm some sort of cool, tough guy. And I eventually developed this like migraine pain all on this side of my face. And I was like, why did I fucking do this? We're on tour. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I've never been before. I'm in so much pain every day. And we got to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I think we were playing at the Vanguard and we were watching. I don't remember who we were watching, but if you know Oklahoma, everybody moshes hard for everybody from Oklahoma.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're from there, you are family right away, and you have an entire squad moshing for your band. Mm-hmm. And so I was watching a band. I couldn't remember who it was, and I really regret that. But Skylar Condor of Cell and Omen was doing his fucking ninjutsu, goddamn flying through the air mosh, and punched me in the side, on this side.
Oh, not the side you were punching. Jaw.
No.
Okay.
He knocked it back into place, and I was fine for the rest of the tour. He literally hit me so hard, I felt it pop, and I was fine. And I went to thank him after that band. And the really cool thing was when I went outside, it was him and somebody. It was a group of people, not to like big up myself or anything, but they were talking about me being a sick vocalist while I was going out there to thank them for thank him for
punching you in the face to reset your face.
Yeah, for fucking resetting my goddamn face and stopping me from getting migraines and shit.
Dude.
It was like a really cool thing.
So
those guys mosh so hard.
Oh, Skylar's like an insane beast in the pit.
Right?
You know,
I never appreciated the way moshing like looks until I went down to Oklahoma and saw Skylar and fucking Colton Armstrong, and like they're scary, legitimately scary.
Yeah,
and it's so cool.
You know, it's funny you bring up Colton because like Prom Core 2021, when I was down there, the kid breaks his arm, third band into the first day, played his set like with a broken arm, and then was still moshing for bands the next day in a sling. So shout out to Colton and Skylar and all the Oklahoma moshers who are listening to this podcast. But I think it is hilarious how you're being like, oh man, I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm just punching myself in the face. But maybe those punches in the face would have like worked in your favor, because if Skylar just hit you, maybe you would be in a hospital that same night.
In the opposite direction. I would have been fucked up. Like, who fucking knows? Like, so dude, I think that's one of the craziest. I don't mosh myself, and I usually stay pretty safe distance because I'm a coward. But like, I don't do the shit myself. I like watching it, and so just being in close proximity to Skylar probably saved me for the rest of that tour.
Mm-hmm. So
this is like really cool.
So you know, I'm not suggesting, you know, if you get punched in the face and it's like, you know, kind of fucked up, and just get someone to punch you on the other side. I'm not saying that's the medicine or the recipe, but it seems to be what worked out for you. Well, Mike, super glad to finally have you on the show and chat with you, and you know, be able to, you know, have a proper one-on-one, because I know with shows, like especially with Snow and Flurry, like it was the first time meeting, and then like at the show we got to chat a little bit, but I always like to, you know, have the proper time to be able to ask you questions, get your vibe, and just like, you know, get to shoot the shit with you. All the Cold Shoulder links and your links will be in the description, in the description and in the show notes. But if there's anything that you want to shout out, plug, or send the people off with, the floor is yours.
Damn. That's nothing. I mean, I guess check out Primal Fury whenever that drops. We're literally waiting on the physicals to be on hand for us to put them out digitally. And just, dude, hit me up if you want to learn to squat or learn to eat veggies. That's it. That's all I'm about, man, is making this music and squatting and just trying to lift. That's it.
Yeah, and I felt like we got to share some laughs. We got to share some valuable info when it comes to powerlifting and veggies. I'll probably put, you know, I think our distributor, which is a company that's owned by Spotify now, allows us to have a poll or like a question thing on the episode. So maybe I'll put it as like, what's the best veggie, or like, do you fuck with broccoli or something like that. So go check that out.
So sick. I love that.
But yeah, I'm very excited for Primal Fury in its full to be out, and you know, I've gotten to have an early listen of that record. It's very, very sick. I think it's some of your guys' best stuff, and I hope that we get to catch you guys in 2022 again. I'm very sure that we'll be able to do that again.
I think we will.
Absolutely. But Mike, this has been a pleasure, and I can't wait to do it again really soon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.